Hey, welcome back to another exciting episode of YOML. Today's episode is episode 58. As you all know, YOML stands for Year of Magical Learning. And today's book is called Alchemy, the Dark Arts and Curious Science of Creating Magic in Brands, Businesses, and the Life by Rory Sutherland. So take it away, Chris.
Yeah, this is an interesting book. I really enjoyed it, actually. I thought he really hit on a lot of really creative ideas and ways to reframe things well, in his case, to try to drive more, monetary gain in business. Right. Yeah, but for me, we'll get into this. This is more of I'll just jump into the reflection, I guess. So the reflection title that I had for this one was "Don't Design for Averages. Innovation focuses on the extremes." So what I mean by that is I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. As you and I have discussed many times before, and I think you and I are 100% aligned on this one. We as humans, we love consistency. We love order. We love, predictability. We love all those things. And it's something that we crave for whatever reason, but this world runs on chaos and randomness and anarchy, really. So we have this fatal flaw of ours of like everything that we do, math and all the stuff that we do, we like all the things that we measure. I think of my own workplace, we spend so much time measuring and trying to predict things and forecasting and understanding how do all these numbers add up so we can plan and predict the future. The truth of the matter is we can't, and we never will, and that's never going to change. But for whatever weird reason, we continue to double, triple, quadruple down on that, trying to find the pattern and the randomness and trying to find that predictability. And that's okay. I mean, I don't have any problem with that. That's just, for whatever reason, our brain goes to that way. I don't know why, evolutionary speaking. We can probably jump into that, later on. I'm sure you have some thoughts on that, but that is what it is. However, the big lesson that that I learned from this particular book, and that we've learned in this journey ourselves, is when we see everybody trying to do the same thing, it's like run the opposite direction, as fast as you can, kind of thing, because there's nothing that's going to be innovative that's going to come out of everybody just chumming up the waters and the red oceans of the world and all that other stuff. And that's really what I learned most from Rory Sutherland, the author of this book and Alchemy. It's that, think outside of the box, always be understanding humanity, understanding the underlying dynamics that are going on, and try to innovate for the extremes. Go for the big home runs, go for the things that are so, wildly off the beaten path that they don't really make sense at the time. But, when you look back on it, like that's when you make the biggest gains going forward with a lot of these different brands. It's so hard the reason why he calls the book Alchemy and they calls it a dark art, is there is no science to this, there is no numbers, there is no methodology to try to, figure out, when something, is going to take off or not. But the one thing that I do know is going in the same direction that everybody else is going into, we're certainly never going to, have an insane amount of growth, I guess, if you're always running at the same direction. So that led me into, in this reflection, talking a lot about Clubany, and saying like, we're trying to do that as well at this point in time. The venture capital world 30 years ago was running in the opposite direction of traditional business, banking, financing, and things like that. They were these unique bunch of little ragtag groups of people that were saying, hey, we could do this better. Well, now every day, all day is, everybody's a co-founder. You go look on LinkedIn, everybody's a founder of their own, startup. Everybody is, there's books on top of books, on top of podcasts, on tops of courses and training. Hell, you can even take entrepreneurship courses in college now, which is like ironic. It's the most ironic thing ever, of like, hey, here's a tutorial of how you can, do entrepreneurship, which has no tutorial in it at all. So for us, Clubany is our alchemy, our dark art, our taking all the humanity, all the things that we're learning and what it means to be human, and trying to do something completely different, trying to solve the problem of, how do you start a business without any money? How do you start a business with just values, meaningful work and meaningful relationships, and see what people can do, right? This isn't to say that the business world or the VC world gets things wrong. In our opinion, like, they do a lot of things right. I know that if we try to go do that same thing today, that it's just not worth our time. Like, I mean, I want to focus our energy and our mission of bringing balance to the world into things that we can really have the biggest impact. And that's going to be, innovating for the extremes and trying to find our own black swan, and create that black swan event. So that's really what this book made me think about, I guess, at a high level. It was packed full of really good, like, innovative ideas. And
right.
I really enjoyed it, actually.
I mean, it's almost outside the box, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's how to think outside the box. It's why do you think outside the box? Why should you think outside the box? So that was my overall reflection on this one. The question that I posed at the end of this one was, when you see a crowd, do you join in, or do you find your own path? For us, I think it's pretty crystal clear that we're trying to find our own path. And
right. So when you see,
we don't know where we're going.
Yeah.
but
for me,
we know how we're gonna get there, though.
Yeah, it doesn't matter where you're going. The thing is, my answer to your question is, when you see a crowd, do you join in and find your own path? I say, when I see a crowd, I get out. Yeah, right. The directions, it's to be determined, but I get out the crowd. Right. So for me, I think, I want to kind of take you through my train of thought of what I think about this whole thing. So I think human is not the way we are built, our characteristics and our, I guess, our biases are not like particularly bad. I think it's good.
Right. Yeah.
And I think because when we, for example, when we do something that is extremely dangerous, we are very heightened. We are hyper focused on that thing, whether there's a lion in the bush or there's something we don't know. We're heightened. But when we get to the point where the things that we've been exposed to, it becomes very familiar and very relaxed. We relax, and the more we relax, the more we ignore things, because it's safe. We don't have to pay attention, right? And I think that's an evolutionary trait that we have, and that's a good thing, because you don't want to exert so much energy trying to focus on everything. But the downside to that, because if everybody doing it, right, then you ignore it. You don't focus on it. So in some of the concept of the book is, in order to think outside the box, you have to say, well, how do I elicit an emotion? How do I get people to pay attention and focus? You have to do something that is not the norm.
Right.
If it's the norm,
it's gotta shock you. Right.
Yeah, meaning we are relaxed. We say, okay, we've seen it before. We relax, and when we relax, we ignore it. We don't pay attention. It's called ignorable. Right. That's a new word called ignorable. I mean, that things that you normally don't pay attention to, and it could be right on your nose, and you ignore it just because our brains is trained to do that, to conserve energy. And I think that's the reason why when there's a crowd, everybody expects it. When they expect it, they ignore it, because it's nothing new. Just like, for example, you go and so our brains is wired for survival. Right. Is why. So thing is, we want to be in a safe environment. When we have something that is new and different,
do we want to be in a safe environment? I mean, like, we're wired for survival. I mean, we're not,
we're wired for survival.
I mean,
so that's why we want to be in a safe environment. We don't want to go into the dangerous territory where lions and tigers can get you. We're not wired for success. We're wired for survival. We're wired to do things that it's going to give us the best chance of surviving.
Right.
Which is, we pay attention to things that's new and unknown, and we relax our energy to conserve it, so that whenever we have the thing we need to run from, we can run from. Right. When we are in a safe zone, we relax ourselves and we disregard the things around us until we see something new. So in order to activate the attention on the new things, right, you have to somehow elicit that kind of response from us, from our brains, right? So you think about, the thing is not about like whether something is better or worse, because the color black, right, or the color white, which is better? Right. So you
No
so you
idea.
say
Yeah, I
you
don't-
say, do you like a black swan or you like a white swan?
I mean, I guess I don't. Yeah, I guess
Right.
there's. I
Which
don't
one
have
is
a
more
preference
beautiful?
really.
It's
Yeah.
only more beautiful because the black swan is rare.
Right.
If imagine you have all black swan and then white swan, and then white swans rare. But that's the thing is when you see a bunch of white swans, and then you see a black swan, oh my God, it's a black swan. You pay attention. But the white swan, oh, it's just white swan. It's a bunch of them. Same thing
Right.
with pigeons, right? So
Yeah.
what's the difference between a pigeon and a dove?
I have no idea the color.
The white
Yeah.
is
Yeah. Yeah.
a dove is a white pigeon,
Right. Right.
right? So you have pigeon and you have dove, right?
I didn't
So
know
you
that
have
actually.
so but the pigeon is gray, and then you have a dove that's white. The dove is it's so beautiful,
I
right?
didn't know
Because
that actually. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. It's because it makes you pay attention because it's not in the crowd. It's not in the safe zone. It's not in the familiarity zone.
Right.
So therefore,
Right.
you don't pay attention. But when you see something different, regardless whether it's ugly, you still say it's beautiful because it's new. So
Right.
something with there's a book called The Purple Cow by Seth Godin. You know him, right?
I've heard of his name, but yeah, I've
so
never
basically,
read that
you
one.
think about a purple cow,
Mhm.
or a rainbow zebra, for example. These are some of the things that say, hey, where do you find the zebra? How do you know which one's what? But you have a rainbow zebra, people can pick it out. That's what I mean when you think outside the box, you elicit these primal response from our brains. Because if all the zebras are the same, we don't pay attention.
Right.
All the cows are the same, we don't pay attention. If there's a purple cow, oh my goodness, there's a purple cow. You pay attention. So I think when you're talking about a crowd, meaning there's so many of them, that's familiar. So in order to do something that's innovative, you have to do things that is not familiar, which is
Right.
new. It doesn't have to be extremes. It just have to be not in a crowd. So to me, when I see a crowd and I want to do something innovative, then we need to get out. So clubbing is say, well, all of these corporate are doing the same thing. We need to do the opposite of what corporate does. So we need to get out of corporate and create this company where people can do things that's not in corporate. It's different from corporate.
Right.
And so to me, that gives you the ability to catch people's attention, to get them to think about and to maybe process it a little bit different. And therefore, I think with that comes innovation, comes creativity.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, it's just all, you're right. It's all about just capturing, people's attention and it's really about understanding those underlying dynamics and
right. It's understanding
yeah.
how we're built, right? How we're wired. Okay. If you think about it, if I were to give you something that is completely different, you say, wow, that's interesting. But if I give you something that is like really, really the same to you, then it's not. But you think about it, like all the foreigners that came to the United States, like wow, you have these, wow, you have that, right? But I say, really? You think this is great? Because we took it for granted. Even though what we have is really, really great, but we don't think of as that until somebody else have a different perspective and see it. So within our same crowd, we can't see above it. So it has to be, you have to try to do something different. That's why a lot of people are taking in influences from a different country, like cooking, whatever. They just take it influence and say, hey, on a hamburger, we put in, whatever else, like, hey, let's put avocados on it or put pineapple on it or whatever. Just say, oh, really, it's nice, it's good, just because it's new.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm 100% with you. I actually, one of the things that I wanted to call out in this book too, that I distinctly remember and really stood out to me was he was talking specifically around improving experiences. Like if you can improve a product, by doing XYZ tweaks and spend years and years and decades of your life on a particular, trying to make this one tiny little tweak that really sets it off. But if you focus on the experience, and he gave this example of the subway stations, like in the metro in like Paris or London or whatever, like the tube, and people, the biggest problem they always had was like, waiting for these trains. They didn't know exactly when it was going to come or not. They knew when the train was supposed to be there, but they didn't know when the last one left. They didn't know when the next one was coming, kind of thing. So like, instead of trying to find a faster train or how to build a better, station or whatever, they just put a timer up there, and it like had a countdown to like when the next train was going to be there. So people chilled out and they were like, oh, that's fine. I don't mind.
Yeah.
I don't mind waiting for 7 minutes for a train, but like, but I mind sitting there going, I don't, if I've been there for 7 minutes,
it's so it goes back to what I'm saying. And it's the wiring we have. We are anxious because we don't know when it's going to come. But if we know that, hey, there's 7 minutes or 15 minutes, even 30 minutes, right? They say, okay, I'm fine because I know what I didn't know before. Therefore, I'm relaxing. I'm not really, kind of getting to the issues of, oh my God, what's going on?
For sure. Well, anyway, this is a fun conversation. We got to jump to our anti-library or anti-book club here that we have going on. We have our guests starting to arrive. So thanks everybody for joining us. And the question we can leave you all with is, when you see a crowd, do you join in or do you find your own path? So we'll look forward to talking to you guys tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll see you next episode.